If you were to point to one thing that's been a weakness for the Giants in 2025, it's definitely the veteran starting pitching outside of Logan Webb.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already. And please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you are following the show. And coming up on today's show, I'm going to break down how, if there is a weakness with this team that has largely had a successful start to the season, there's just no doubt about it. They're 13-6, which in any other division would have them in first place, I believe. I haven't checked as of yesterday. I mean, my goodness, the Rockies are 11.5 back already. But the Giants are in third place, whereas in any other division, they would be in first. So it is early, so these things can change. You know, a loss tonight and a win by somebody else, and these things can change. But anyway, 13-6, great start. And their run differential backs it up. It's plus 32. They've scored 104 runs. They've only allowed 72. But a lot of that allowing only 72 has been the bullpen, which has one of the best ERAs around. I think last I checked, it was second best, and that was yesterday. So Jordan Hicks, very impressive that at the end of the day, in the loss to the Phillies in the finale, he ends up going 7 innings, considering how his first inning went. He threw a lot of pitches in that first inning, and he allowed 5 runs to score. One of those, he was 1 strike away from only allowing 3 runs to score, and that was kind of the difference in the game. He threw a wild pitch, and then he allowed a triple, so 2 more runs came in with 2 outs and 2 strikes. But at the end of the day, you allow 5 runs in the first, especially when your team, the Giants offense, put up a run against a really good pitcher in the top of the first. It's just not how you want to set the tone. And on this road trip, Giants starting pitching, specifically Justin Verlander, Robbie Ray, even I think Logan Webb, I'd have to look back at every box score, but Giants starting pitching has been allowing early runs. And so what concerns me is that as a team, they have a 4.80 ERA by their starting pitching, and that includes Logan Webb with a 2.63. And so we've got Robbie Ray coming in second with a 4.19, Landon Roupp 4.80, Jordan Hicks 6.04, and Justin Verlander 6.75. Now, if you follow this show, we don't just look at ERAs. There's expected ERA, there's fielding independent pitching, there's a lot more. And to me, Landon Roupp has, I think is the second best pitcher of this group pretty clearly when you look at kind of the peripheral stuff. We look at the expected ERA for Roupp, it's 2.54, the fielding independent pitching 2.60, and on and on. So I have a lot of faith in Landon Roupp, but I am losing faith start by start in the likes of Verlander, Robbie Ray, and Jordan Hicks. And I feel kind of like a broken record saying that they've got a lot of young pitching talent, and the question is just simply going to be, how long are you going to let guys struggle, and which guys are you going to let struggle the least before you make a move? Because it's hard for me to say that for the short term and the long term, maybe more importantly the long term, that Hayden Birdsong getting a look as a starting pitcher it's hard for me to say that that wouldn't be the best thing for this organization. But the thing is, and this really hasn't been the case. Like under the previous regime, you didn't run into this a lot where guys were like blocked. And right now it feels like the Giants have young pitchers that are blocked. And I understand why they went out and they signed a Justin Verlander, because you didn't want to have to rely on young pitching that may not be ready. But the fact is the young pitching looks ready, and Birdsong very well could struggle, but these guys have struggled. And so would you rather have a player struggle and develop or possibly be really good in like a Hayden Birdsong, or would you rather just let a 42-year-old Justin Verlander go out there and get shelled, or Jordan Hicks go out there and not be able to find the strike zone, and likewise with Robbie Ray? And so, yeah, for Birdsong, he's thrown 10 innings on the season. It's a very small sample, but ERA is 1.80. Expected ERA is 3.93. Fielding independent pitching is 4.00. So once you get out of the ERA, the expected ERA, the fielding independent pitching, those are not great, but we've seen him at times be just totally overpowering. And so the more just every time through the rotation you're seeing struggles by specifically those veterans in Hicks and Robbie Ray and Justin Verlander, it's like, how long are you going to let this go on? And it's going to be more and more difficult to overcome, which they've done a good job of doing so far. We discussed on yesterday's show how the Giants offense has been the most clutch offense in Major League Baseball. And so, like, if you look at high leverage situations, according to Fangraphs, however it is specifically that they define high leverage situations, the Giants are number one, and the Dodgers were kind of a close-ish second, but then there was nobody close when it came to third. So you can't rely on that. That's not the kind of thing that you can just say, okay, yeah, we're just going to be like lapping the field in clutch offensive situations all year long. You kind of look more towards what are you doing just overall as an offense. And I'm not talking about runs scored, because the runs scored are affected by coming through in clutch situations. I would just expect that you're going to be who you are. Maybe if you want to just argue that, oh, clutch is a thing and under Buster Posey they're clutch now, okay, but they're not going to be like twice as good as the third place team or something crazy like that. Like, so far, those wins are in the bank, and the clutch hits they've had are in the bank, and that's great. But when all is said and done, if you're going out there and allowing all these walks and all these runs as a starting staff, it's going to add up to losses, and that becomes a problem. So thankfully, they've got Logan Webb going tonight, and he's just been, almost better than ever. His strikeout rate is 28% on the season, which is even better than normal for him. His career strikeout rate is just 22.2%, and his ground ball rate over 50%. ERA 2.63, expected ERA 3.35, fielding independent pitching 2.25. Just excellent across the board. So they've got him going, and then I like Landon Roupp a lot, but I kind of just cringe, to be honest, with the other three. And to be fair, I've kind of done this all off season and year long, since this is the first time with me hosting this show that there's a new front office. I came in at the beginning of 2019, and it was Farhan Zaidi's first year. So now I have the job of, like, to me, because there's so much talk about front offices these days, and there was so much anger about Farhan Zaidi and the way he was running things, it's worth pointing out that Buster Posey is the one who signed Justin Verlander for a 1-year deal, but Farhan Zaidi brought in Jordan Hicks and Robbie Ray. And I think Hicks, as a former reliever, eventually you could easily see him going to the bullpen, but the stuff is good. I think that it's more like Verlander and Ray are weaker than Hicks. And so I just continue to wonder, how do they get out of this? And if those guys continue to struggle, how do they get out of this and turn the page to their younger players? Do you just wait for an injury? What do you do? So That's kind of what I just continue to wonder. It's like a daily thing because you're just seeing pretty consistently not great performances by several of the members of this starting rotation. Another guy who's just not performing well is Willy Adames, another of the two major Buster Posey moves. Verlander and Adames have both struggled mightily. So we'll get into Willy Adames and how it's time to get it going and what is the level of concern in just a minute and before we do. Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you'll get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, as promised, we are going to get into one Mr. Willy Adames, who has just yet to get it going. It has been a struggle all season long. He's had some big hits, specifically one hit that won them a game, but other than that, it's largely been a struggle for him, and you give him a lot of rope as a veteran who's been there, done that, but the numbers are just not good. And so what are the numbers looking like for him, and to me, what is actually more concerning that doesn't necessarily jump off the stat sheet? Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, on Monday, we'll be breaking down the end of this long road trip. The Giants are in Anaheim. At least maybe they feel a little closer to home back in California, and taking on an Angels team that got off to a good start but has lost some games in a row. So this would be big if they could just go in there and win this series. They already have a winning record on this road trip, so just to go in there and take at least 2 out of 3 would be really big for this team, just to continue rolling. As a couple of good teams and the Brewers and the Rangers coming into town, I mean, this has been a tough stretch here, and the Giants have done well to their credit, despite what I've been talking about. They've had issues with their starting pitching, and their big $182 million signing has yet to get it going. It is 19 games. It's not a lot of games. It's 86 plate appearances, but Willy Adames is hitting .195 with a .267 on base and a .286 slugging. It's a .091 isolated power, which is just meaning he just has not had a lot of extra base hits, even when he's gotten his rare hits. He's only, I think he has 5 extra base hits and 10 singles. Yeah, 10 singles, 4 doubles, and a homer, 1 homer. And this is a guy who last year hit 32 home runs, stole 21 bases, had a .331 on base, a .462 slugging, was worth like 5 Fangraphs wins above replacement pretty much. But this year, so far, before I actually say what I'm concerned about, I do want to point out, like, on Fangraphs you can see these little graphs where it shows like their rolling 15 game performance. Like, I hope that makes sense without needing to explain it too much. But basically, I'm able to see, like, how has Adames done over, the last calendar year in terms of performance on like a 15-game chunk basis. And you can see that even last year when he put up the great season, he had a deep slump where he was even worse than he's been in a 15-game period. He was even worse than at any point this season. So what I see is a streaky hitter. And so that was in like July of last season, but then basically starting in late July through essentially kind of September, he just was like excellent the whole time. So he's streaky. He is a guy who can absolutely get hot. It seems that's the thing, is we haven't seen him do it. It's like when it's your own player and you've seen them do it before, you have less worry when you are witnessing it for the first time. So for me, like when I'm witnessing Willy Adames not playing well for the first time, it's like, what? And I'm sure a lot of people at home, it's like, what? This guy can't play. Well, that's just because we haven't seen good Willy Adames yet. And then if you see like 2-3 months of good Willy Adames, you'll forget all about this cold streak and be like, this guy's amazing. That's just how baseball is. And then he'll go through a cold spell and you won't really notice or care or read too much into it because you've seen the good. So, you know, guys like Matt Chapman, he started last year really slow, but then we saw just the for him, it's kind of just a consistent presence and just consistent demeanor and consistently just grinding out at bats. And even when he's not going well, he's contributing in different ways. But for Adames, I mean, it's just been a struggle in more ways than one. And what's concerning to me is when you look at the defensive metrics for Willy Adames at minus 2.3 runs above average, and that includes a positional adjustment for him being a shortstop. So just being a shortstop gives you an edge. But last year, Willy Adames had minus 16 defensive runs saved, which was really bad. The 2 years prior combined, he was at plus 17 defensive runs saved. So, you know, it looked like an anomaly, but this year so far, minus 4 defensive runs saved. So we're talking his last 1,500 innings or so, minus 20 defensive runs saved, which is a little bit alarming. And then outs above average, he was at plus 10 in 2022, plus 16 in 2023, 0 last year, which aligns with it just aligns with that there was a dip, just like defensive runs saved says last year that there was a dip. But this year already minus 3 outs above average. So I've kind of seen it. The one game where he had all those balls that were hit really hard to him, I actually missed like that little bit of action in that game. That was the home opener, I believe. I didn't see those plays, but besides that, I've pretty much seen every single play that Willy Adames has or hasn't made this season. And yeah, I mean, I've seen a guy who hasn't wowed me defensively. I see the tools to be a plus defender, and I think maybe just with time you're going to see it play out where not every difficult play is super difficult and like he's able to make it or whatever. But, you know, he's made some throws in the dirt that have not been dug out, or he's just been a half step late with some throws. But you can see very strong arm. I think that in general, it's best to look at kind of these types of defensive metrics in larger samples. Specifically, my understanding is that you kind of want to look at the last 3 years or so to really get a good gauge of a guy's defensive ability versus 19 games. But when you combine it with some of the struggles last season, and then you look at, even with that, Fangraphs had him at 6 runs above average defensively, including a positional adjustment, meaning you get credit for just being a shortstop, essentially. Even if you're an average shortstop, like that's better than being a above average first baseman. You're providing more value by being a shortstop. And for Adames, like even with the minus 16 defensive runs saved last year, he was still at plus 6 defensive runs above average per Fangraphs, but this year already at minus 2.3 runs above average. And then offensively, it's definitely negative. I don't have it. It's minus 4.5 runs above average. So you combine offense and defense, and that's what, minus 6.8 runs above average. So an average shortstop is like 7 runs better, and that's not accounting for base running, where he's been another minus 0.7 runs. And so we're talking 7-something runs below average so far. So I'm not going to sit here and be Mr. 19-game I've made a judgment on you as a player. I'm familiar with Adames's game. I see in the little graphs that I'm able to see that he is streaky, and he's had periods like just last year when he had a monster year. He had a period that was much worse even than this offensively. It's just showing me offense, including the power being completely non-existent during that stretch as well. So just waiting for the hot streak. He looks to be a streaky hitter, and we're just waiting for the hot streak, and it could happen at any moment. That's just how baseball is. You're cold until you're not. You're hot until you're not as well. But for Adames, it's just been almost 20 games. Today, I'm assuming he'll be in the lineup. It'll be 20 games, and he had a huge game-winning hit, literally 2 runs driven in to win the game in the home opener. And what he's brought off the field too cannot be overstated when it comes to culture and just the energy that he brings and the joy that he plays with. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just simply trying to point out how poor the performance has been to date, but also that ultimately I believe that he's streaky and that he will come out of it. And then the sky's the limit because of what he brings from a character and energy and clubhouse presence perspective. If he's also performing, then I could see this team just continuing to play really, really well, because I think he's had a big influence on the early success that they've had this season with just his energy, really. So coming up in just a minute, how the Giants, it's hard to say they have a chance to right the ship, but I feel like things have been a little bit wobbly here. I think they're 5-5 in their last 10, but you've got an opportunity here going into Los Angeles to play the Angels, who have lost 4 straight games, and so their pitching has a chance to get right. Their hitting, guys like Willy Adames have a chance to get right. Giants are 9-4 on the road. They've played a ton of road games. Angels have only played 3 home games themselves. But yeah, 4 straight losses, negative 11 run differential. Chance to get right in Anaheim in just a minute. We'll get into it. And before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that is made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. All right, as promised, we are going to discuss how the Giants can quote-unquote right the ship. I don't want to sound too negative for a team, and really I'm not negative at all. I'm just trying to, they're 5-5 in their last 10. I see some red flags with the pitching staff in particular, with the starting staff, and that question has been, to me, the biggest, if you're going to question this team at all, it's what do you do to kind of get some young arms in that rotation when you're kind of tied down with commitments to Verlander and Robbie Ray and Jordan Hicks. And I don't think it's as simple as you might think, where it's just move one of them to the bullpen. It's not that simple when you're Buster Posey and you're trying to take care of your veterans and not ruffle feathers and stuff like that. And Verlander's never pitched out of the bullpen. And Jordan Hicks was promised by the previous regime when he signed that he was going to get chances to start. And Robbie Ray has like always been a starter. So what do you do? What do you do? That has been a continuing theme, and I feel a little bit like a broken record. But anyway, yeah, they're 5-5 in their last 10, which accounts for losing the series at home to the Reds, which wasn't that big of a deal because they swept the Mariners and then lost 2 out of 3 to the Reds. So they had a 4-2 homestand, and then they win 2 out of 3 in New York, and then they split in Philly. Like, there's really nothing standing out as a huge issue with like their record or anything like that. But I would like to see some better starting pitching. I would like to see them kind of calm down a little bit. Like if you look at the last handful of games, Jordan Hicks with the 5 spot in the first, and they allowed, they're allowing at least 4 runs a game every game except in their last, on this road trip, I should say, except for the 9-1 win against the Yankees. They allowed 4 runs against the Yankees in the middle game. They allowed 4 runs in their finale. They allowed 4 runs in their 10-4 win to open in Philly. They allowed 6 runs in the second game in Philly, 4 runs in the third game, and 6 runs in the fifth game. So they're starting to leak a little bit of oil on the pitching side, whereas on the hitting side, they scored those 9 runs in whatever it was, like 5 2/3 innings in New York when that game got called due to rain. And then they scored 4 in the second game, 5 in the third. First game in Philly, 10 runs. Second game, 4 runs. Third game, 11 runs. Fourth game, 4 runs. So they're scoring runs. And it was 8 runs in their finale against the Reds after being shut out in back-to-back games to lose the first 2 games of that series when they allowed only 2 and 1 run respectively in that series. So they easily could have won at least one of those Reds games, but I digress. I just think that this Angels team, they often start hot, but they're just not. There's no reason to think they were bad when they had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout, and now suddenly they're good. They started out 9-5, but now they've lost 4 in a row to be 9-9, and their run differential is -11. Like I said, they've lost 4 in a row. They've only played 3 home games, so this will be their 4th home game. So I'm sure they're happy to be back home. And it's going to be former Giant Tyler Anderson on the mound, another lefty for the Angels tonight against Logan Webb. So Anderson is 35 years old at this point, and you look at the numbers, he's got a 2.87 ERA, but a 5.68 fielding independent pitching, 3.82 expected ERA, but he's a guy that is not going to strike out a ton of hitters. You've got your Elliot Ramos's, I want to say Willy Adames, but actually Adames has reverse splits over his career, which is an interesting thing that it's worth pointing out from time to time for me, meaning you would think it's a great matchup for Adames to be facing a soft-tossing lefty like Tyler Anderson, but not necessarily. He's done better against righties for whatever reason in his whole career than he has against lefties. And that's using like a sophisticated metric like weighted runs created plus. I'm not just talking about batting average, which can sometimes your batting average is worse, but your slugging numbers are like through the charts better, and you got to take all that into account, and that's what something like weighted runs created plus does. So anyway, Elliot Ramos, it's not been, he started out well. He had all those extra base hits to start the season in consecutive games, but he has cooled off, and he was only second to Aaron Judge in terms of like weighted runs created plus against left-handed pitching. OPS, if you prefer something simpler, just on-base percentage plus slugging percentage. Against lefties, only second to Aaron Judge. Jung-Hoo Lee, I don't think it's mattered. I haven't looked at the platoon splits, but he's hit everybody. So, I don't know, the Matt Chapmans of the world. Tyler Fitzgerald has really, really come along and suddenly has been one of the best hitters on this team. I think he should probably be moved up in the lineup, and maybe someone like Ramos down a little bit, and have maybe switch those guys where Ramos is down towards the 7 spot or so, and Fitzgerald is up in the top 6 at least. instead of ninth, I would like to see that because he's hitting. And I don't know, Ramos has done so well against lefties. I'm not sure I would do it against a righty or a lefty, but nonetheless, I don't know. This is just a series, Tyler Anderson, but you've got Logan Webb. Tyler Anderson with his good ERA, but you've got Logan Webb. And then if you look at the second game of the series, you've got Landon Roupp, who I think, the peripheral numbers are all really good for Landon Roupp. So I'm excited when Roupp pitch. It's the other guys I'm less excited about. Whereas Kyle Hendricks, who's been like a Giants killer, is going for the Angels. Very, very soft tossing righty, 35 years old as well, 4.20 ERA, 3.64 expected ERA. This is just not a very good pitcher anymore at this point in his career. If we look all the way back to 2021, he's got a ERA of almost 5. And so you should have the advantage in that game as well. And then in the finale, it's Verlander against Yusei Kikuchi. That might be advantage Angels. So you got to take one of these first two, in my opinion. Hopefully two, or I think maybe you got to take the first two, because I don't have a ton of confidence in Verlander. And Kikuchi, even though he's quote-unquote 0-3, I think he's got good stuff. I'm going to quickly look him up here just to verify what I'm saying here. Well, the strikeout numbers are down, and he has a tendency to give up a home run or two per 9 innings, but he's got really good stuff. He strikes out guys a lot and can be overpowering at times. Last year had a 28% strikeout rate. So anyway, this is a series where hopefully you can keep going and take advantage of an inferior team. Let's face it. And you've got Logan Webb going in game 1. So if you lose this one, it's going to be tough, but to win the next two. But so tonight being a big game, in my opinion, to just keep the momentum going and hopefully get right with some of your bats, like Willy Adames, even though it is a lefty and he's historically better against righties. I don't care. It's Tyler Anderson. Time to get this guy. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, I'm Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. Helps me out so much. So thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again on Monday breaking down this series. Have a great weekend. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.